They slowed their approach on the hilly plain when the stones appeared on the horizon. At first, just bumps, the wizard stones grew taller as they neared the crest of the hill. "The sun's almost straight up," Guinevere said. "The height of Albin Elfid, and the start of autumn. Merlyn says," Cedwyn said. I can't wait to see the magic he talked so much about." "Maybe the stones will foretell the end of Arthur's battles, so father and everyone can come home," Guinevere said. The last time Merlyn visited, he'd told tales about the magical happenings at the Wizard Stones during the Alban Isla at the start of spring. How blue lightning shot from one stone to another as the sun cleared the horizon. How that energy penetrated the inner circle of the stones. How the hair of those in close attendance stretched up to the heavens like mist rising from the moors at dawn. How the streaks in the grey stone ignited and burnt a brilliant blue hue when the sunlight struck them. How the magic consumed the circle and blotted out all sounds, all feelings, all thoughts, and invaded the soul. "The magic may have been stronger at dawn, but we're lucky we slipped away when we did," Guinevere said. "How many stones do you think there are?" Cedwyn squinted in hopes of seeing farther. "When father and I visited Arthur once, we saw a smaller stone circle with only the grey stones. This one looks much bigger." Having reached the outer circle, they dismounted, leaving the horses at the start of a warden path, and hurried down to the stones. Merlyn said the outer circle was always made of grey stones. Cedwyn said, "Look, Guinevere. Only 3 of the top stones are still in place. Look how small we are compared to them." Indeed, the grey stones dwarfed them. They walked around the circle, counting as they went, until they stood under a lintel. Only 7 stones remained standing. Large gaps indicated where other stones were missing. Guinevere stretched out her arms and tried to touch 2, but the gap between was too wide. Cedwyn tried and laughed when he barely made half of the distance. The sun appeared to brighten, and the rays grew hotter. Guinevere and Cedwyn moved as one toward the inner circle of blue stones. "See the streaks of blue in these stones?" Cedwyn traced one from its starting point above his head, down into the grass, where the monolith disappeared deep in the ground. Guinevere traced one of the blue streaks in the next stone. Underneath her fingers, the streak appeared to flow upward. Of their own will, her fingers followed its path. When the sun was at its zenith, or highest, a sudden fog settled down on the circle, masking everything. Guinevere drew in a sharp breath as a low humming started. She reached for her friend, hidden in the thick mist. Cedwyn gasped and struggled to maintain his balance. "Guinevere, it's the magic of Albin Elfid, and the stones, like Merlyn told." The humming grew louder. The stones began to vibrate. The fog touched the ground. Guinevere moved her arm wraith-like through the grey blanket. She blinked and could just make out Cedwyn's figure beside her. She clamped her hands over her ears as the sound grew to a crescendo, blocking out thoughts and the ability to speak. Beside her, Cedwyn did the same. The monoliths reverberated, the rhythm thrumming through her body. At times, lightning bolts came out of the fog, shooting sparks into the center of the blue stones. Guinevere and Cedwyn tried to duck to avoid being hit, but the stones held them tight, as a glistening web holds its struggling spoils. Then the humming ceased. The fog thickened. She lost sight of Cedwyn and shivered, alone in the strange mist. Long since having given up struggling against whatever held her, she squinted in an attempt to see her friend. Abruptly, the force of the stones ceased. Guinevere and Cedwyn slipped down the face of the menhir into the grass. A peace invaded Cedwyn's soul. Visions of snowy meadows danced in front of him. His body relaxed, his breathing slowed. A whirl of fog formed in the center of the circle. A faint outline of a woman, a fairy, a goddess materialized. The apparition reached out and touched his mind. Guinevere's wide eyes told him she felt the touch also. "You have come seeking the awakening, which you call the magic of Albin Elfid," and wish to know when the battles will end, and peace once again reign in this land. Even I do not know that, for Arthur follows a path made by another. I bring you only my magic. Many trials await the two of you. Perhaps the hardest are the ones you will have to endure alone. You, Guinevere, will find yourself lost. You, who are destined to be a great queen, will have to traverse a journey of immense pain and self-doubt. You must let your inner feelings guide you. The journey will be hard and painful. You must summon the courage of your soul to sustain you. You, Cedwyn, faithful friend of the princess and the queen, your journey may be the hardest of all. You will be sent far from those you love and serve. Your duty will demand that you see this most difficult journey to its end. Whether it be death or life, for you will depend on many things. Your courage must also come from deep within your soul for one so young. Your love of family and friends must be great, but greater still must be your loyalty to the knight's duty, for your knight's vow comes soon. You must embrace it. You must defeat the temptations to turn aside for your own safety. Each of you will have to trust the other implicitly, without reservation, without doubt. To do otherwise will destroy both of you and this land. I give you each my blessing. You must be ready to flee, for danger approaches. With a final whirl, the goddess disappeared into the air from whence she came. The fog lifted. The rays of the sun burned brighter and then dimmed. Guinevere and Cedwyn stared at each other. "Did you hear that? Did you see her?" Cedwyn forced the words out. He stared into the center of the stones. Yes, Guinevere said, gasping as she tried to get the one word out. "Who was that?" "A goddess, I think." "Merlyn never said anything about the appearance of goddesses." "Guinevere, what do you think she meant about our journeys?" "I don't know. I wish Merlyn were at the castle. He would know." Just then a rush of wind found the center of the bluestones. Fallen leaves caught in its grasp, swirled around and round like a demon's whirlwind. Outside the stones, Saren Brennan's head jerked up, ears flattened. Cedwyn's sorrel imitated its stablemate, with teeth bared. "The horses," Cedwyn said, turning from the center. "Quick, before they spook." Guinevere and Cedwyn ran for the animals and grabbed the reins. Cedwyn struggled to hold the sorrel. Saren Brennan planted his front legs wide, braced for battle, and tossed his head, nearly ripping the reins out of Guinevere's hand. "The danger," Cedwyn started, "approaches." Guinevere finished. Struggled to mount, trying to live with it. A pain-filled scream riding on the wind from the east brought the fight east to a standstill. What? Said Rust. "I don't know. Mayhap just the wind." Even mounted, their view from the stones was obscured by the small barrows scattered throughout the plain. The skittish horses moved closer together. Saren Brennan threw his head down, grabbing at the bit. Through Cedwyn. "Gwen, we can't that way," she said, breathless from fighting her horse. "I know. Whatever that was, it stands between us and the castle. It sounds like a man," Guinevere said. The horses pawed frantically and slammed into each other, trying to bolt. "Ride for the abbey?" "Yes, at the door," Cedwyn said. "You take the lead. I'll watch our back. Go." Guinevere tightened her reins and jerked Saren Brennan around. Digging her heels in, horse and rider raced around the outer stones, raced north toward the fighting and the Abbey of Glastonbury, raced away from the sun's warmth. Cedwyn followed, but continued looking back under his arm. He feared the danger the goddess warned them about was after them. The scream, whatever and wherever it came from, echoed in his head and filled him with dread and fear.